everybody. I'm Dr. Cindy with the Positively Altered podcast. On today's episode, we are going to take a unique spin from our normal. Our guest is known as the Purposeful MD, and she has a compass framework that is absolutely outstanding because there are so many of us in leadership positions who sometimes don't even realize we're in leadership positions, and especially in the medicine space, who are burnt out, who have lost their passion, and who no longer find joy. And it's so essential that when we take care of others, we understand what happens in this burnout phase and how we can overcome and get out of it so that we can practice in a way we have always intended and dreamed of. So sit tight, take a quick listen to our sponsors. You do not want to miss our next guest, where we talk about burnout at its root and physician well-being.
Hello, my name is Heather Lord, and I am the COO of Professional Health Products. Cutting corners is an all too common practice in the dietary supplement industry. When my father founded Professional Health Products, he sourced the cleanest, most biologically active ingredients from around the globe. Today, that commitment remains, which is why the finest healthcare practitioners, like Dr. Cindy, have trusted us for more than 40 years. We oversee the entire process in our manufacturing facility, from sourcing and formulation to manufacturing and labeling. Today, we offer over 300 unique products that can be tailored to the nutritional and homeopathic needs of each individual. Most recently, we launched a proprietary genetic test, allowing our practitioners to get even more dialed in to their patients' health. To learn more about Professional Health Products, please talk to your practitioner or visit our website at phpltd.com.
Today, your life is going to be altered. I'm Dr. Cindy.
Welcome to Infinity. We have worked hard to create an electronic claims website that is simple and user-friendly. This is the public side. You can log into your personal web portal here. This is your dashboard. You can personalize it to your liking here. Our main focus has been to allow you to submit and edit claims as easy as possible. You will find our claims editor and claims processing is simple to use and straightforward. Our quick action bar is where you can find your most important information. Most of these icons will take you directly to the claims the number represents. You can easily view if you have any messages in your inbox of any unread alerts by looking for these blue numbers. To view the rest of our training videos to get the most of your Infinity experience, click this icon. We hope you find this web portal simple and easy to use. Thanks for letting us serve you.
I'm Dr. Cindy. Who wouldn't want to join me for the Positively Altered podcast? And we are back. I am Dr. Cindy, your host of the Positively Altered podcast. Thank you so much for taking a quick listen to our sponsors. And now we are going to hit it hard with my guest. I am so excited. Dr. Laura Suttin, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks. It's good to be here.
So this is fun because I was a guest on your podcast first. So now we've got a little role reversal. We'll see how this goes. Actually, you never know if it flips and you turn into host here and I turn back into guest. We'll see where the conversation goes. But I want to dive in with something that is really, really important. I know to you, but actually to me. We spend a lot of time on this podcast talking about, as practitioners, how we help other people. And I think we very commonly forget that it really starts at home with helping ourselves. I want to talk about physician well-being.
Yeah.
Where do you want to start? Where do you want to start with that?
Well, I can give a little bit of my story, and because my lived experience really informs what I'm doing these days. So I'm a family physician, and when I came out of training, I had joined a small private practice that then was sold to a larger health system. I stayed with that health system for 14 years. In there, I was practicing and also in an executive role as a physician leader. Part of that role was overseeing some of the operational aspects of our clinics, also looking at some of the health and safety practices. So how do we keep our patients safe? How do we keep our employees safe? Some of the boring stuff, policies and procedures, hand hygiene, that kind of stuff. a lot of it was also, or a lot of another big part of my role was looking at organizational development, team development, physician well-being. Specifically coming out of COVID, we had a huge problem with turnover of clinicians leaving. So, and when I say clinician, in my context, I'm referring to physicians, nurse practitioners, and physician associates. I know sometimes terms get muddy. We had a big problem with clinicians leaving, feeling like, and this wasn't a unique to our system by any means. And so it really highlighted for us organizationally, and something that I had been working on for years, how do we make our clinicians feel seen and heard? And so, and not just clinician engagement, because clinicians can be very engaged employees and still also be very burnt out.
Yes.
And so, and I see you nodding and chuckling, so I know you get that. But that was something that I think a lot of leaders and people that are not clinical don't understand. And so, in the midst of all of that, I got my coaching certification, launched my business, and got an MBA somewhere in there. But I went full time in my business about 2 years ago. I still do a lot of one-on-one coaching for clinicians. These days I'm moving more into consulting and speaking, and also launching a course, which I would love to talk about too. I wrote a book a couple years ago, again, about my lived experience and how that translates into work with my clients. But it's no surprise to anybody listening to this that there's a huge epidemic of clinician burnout. And so, and clinician burnout and well-being are not necessarily opposites. Mm-hmm. And so when I think of clinician well-being as an answer, a long answer to your question, it's making sure that we are taking care of ourselves first. And the healthcare system really tries to beat that out of us. And it's no fault of the system. There's this perpetuation of being in training environments that are reflections of what we received. And in my training environment, and I feel I'm not as connected to the academic training world, but I hear this from my colleagues who are. There's not much of a change, unfortunately.
Okay.
I was trained to sacrifice my own needs for the needs of the patients and the needs of my colleagues and my team members. Things like sleep, food, going to the bathroom, those were considered luxuries. Mm-hmm. And it was a badge of honor to be awake all night on call, or be the first one at rounds at 4:00 in the morning, or be the last one to leave at 10:00 at night. And we were rewarded systematically for these types of behaviors. And so in an environment like that, just like any reward pathway, our brains build up this dopamine cycle to reinforce that type of behavior. And then when we get out, hopefully we get out of an environment like that. But a lot of physicians are still in an environment like that, or their brains are still operating in that mechanism. And so they have this mentality of, well, I can't sleep. I have to stay up all night and finish my charts, or I can't sleep. I have to stay up all night and read up on my patients, or whatever that is. Or it extends to the family. A lot of us who are caring for either young children or aging parents, or somebody with additional needs in the family, then we have that same mentality towards the people around us. Or maybe it's a sense of obligation to be the room parent when you're a full-time working clinician, and or whatever that obligation is. Just this mentality that's drilled into us that we don't ask for help. Asking for help is a sign of weakness, and we put ourselves last.
So I'm curious your take on this, because we know that there's significant literature, research, and even clinical, empirical data that sleep is important, right?
Right.
That well-being is important, that we focus better when we do some of the things that we aren't doing in that space. Where do you think it came from? And is there any support behind the don't sleep, give 24 hours? Is there any positive to that you've seen in this space where we could technically justify some of it that still exists?
So It's $1 million question. So where it comes from is, again, decades and decades of clinical training. So, and I know you know this, but for your audience, the first few years after a physician graduates medical school, then they enter internship, then they enter a period of what's called residency, which is they're a physician. They have their license and MD, but they're still under supervision. That word resident comes from the fact that these physicians lived in the hospital. So that's why we call them residents still to this day. Now, they don't technically live in the hospital. Hopefully not.
Yeah.
But we have call rooms because they have to sleep. We have, there's cafeteria, they have to eat. I mean, there's lounges, showers, all of that. So this is a very ingrained system and cycle, and there's still a mentality of, well, this was done to me, so it's going to be done to you. Mm-hmm. Now, to answer your question about, is there evidence for some of these 24-hour shifts and that type of thing? So I was in medical school. I'm dating myself here, but I was in medical school when the quote unquote 80-hour work week came out. Okay. So again, for the uninitiated, this is a limit on physician working hours to 80 hours. Not a max, or a max, not a maximum, meaning that they were working way more hours than that. And so somebody had to limit. Now, most people would say, how is this possible that you have to limit your hours to 80 hours a week? But yes. So, first of all, this didn't apply to students, didn't apply to trainees, because we weren't employees. We were still, we're paying for this, right?
Right.
We're in school. So, medical school, you're paying tuition. You're not a doctor yet. You don't have that MD yet. You're still learning. But in the second 2 years of school, you're still in the hospital on the wards. You're not in classroom type environment. So we're up all night, awake all day, all those things. And then when we get out of internship and residency, that's where the work hours came in. The challenge with this is what I saw in my training programs is, the residents were restricted now, but the attendings, so these are the physicians who have completed, they're board certified, they've completed all their training. Now they're supervising the trainees. Those restrictions didn't apply to them. And so they were now working more hours because somebody has to take care of these patients. Now you have this cadre of physicians. And I'm not necessarily for or against. I mean, clearly we need limits on how many hours somebody's awake. But you had this cadre of physicians that were all of a sudden like, wait, when I was in training, I was working 100 or 120 hours a week. And now there's a law that says that now I have to go back to that environment because my trainees, they get to go home, but I have to stay here because somebody's still got to take care of this patient. So there's this huge, at least at the time, 20 plus years ago, this huge kind of us versus them mentality. And the mentality of some of the docs who were trained in older settings is, well, in order to fully adequately understand the cycle of a patient case, an ER case or a critical case, you have to follow that patient over time and being involved in that patient's care intimately for the first 24 hours of their admission is a helpful way to learn about patient care and follow them. And I don't disagree with that. I at the same time, I don't want to be taken care of by a doctor who's been awake for 24 plus hours. I mean, I think all of us have been in the situation where we have experienced a flight delay and the crew time's out. And so, because none of us want to be in a plane that's piloted by somebody who needs to go to sleep. And so it's the same type of mentality where we don't allow our pilots to be awake that long. Why do we allow our doctors? And so I don't know that there's a great answer. And then there was this whole fear about, well, there's not going to be enough people to take care of the patients. And yes, we're seeing that in the shortages of our clinicians. I don't think that it's due to quote unquote work hour restrictions, but it's still a challenge because there's not enough of us to take care of the people that need to be taken care of.
Right. Yeah. So I think there's many problems, right? There's many challenges in that. And the first one, it's very interesting. I have a daughter who's a pilot, and I think about that quite often in her industry. And yet, You're absolutely right. I mean, especially in the ER, my little mom and pop office, not that there can't be life-threatening issues, but they're not all day long. In an ER where everything can really truly be that one decision you make can make a difference. I agree with you. I'm not so sure I want to be wheeled in on a cart from the ambulance with somebody who's on their 23rd hour
Mm-hmm.
and hope that they're going to make really good decisions about my life.
Right.
Again, easy for me to say sitting on the outside, but I think I would sacrifice you following me for the 24 hours to just get the fresh eyes on me.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's my 8th hour in the ER with a new doctor.
Yeah.
Or her who got a good night's sleep,
Right.
who didn't need 6 cups of coffee in order to function
Right.
in the ER. Yeah, it's a very interesting challenge. And yet I do see in this space of medicine, to your point, we don't have enough practitioners to take care of all the people.
Yeah.
All the way around. So there's a shortage. We've had instances where we've referred out for different specialties, and my patients can't even get a phone call back for a week to get on the schedule, let alone when they're on the schedule.
Right.
And that's very scary.
Yeah.
You've got somebody who really needs a specialist that can't even be told if they can be seen or not.
Right. Yeah. It is. It is. And, the other, and I don't want to belabor this too much, but the other thing, the kind of along the same lines of like, we're awake for 24 hours. We're also the younger that we are, the earlier that we are in the training, the more likely we are to do work that does not necessarily need to be done by us. We call it scut work. So I'm dating myself. When I was in training, we didn't have digital x-rays. So we had to go to the basement, at 4 a.m, and we had to dig for the x-ray films.
Yes.
Because the librarian wasn't even there, or the techs weren't even there yet. We were waking up patients at 3 and 4 a.m. to take a history of them so that we could present at 4:30 to our residents, so that we could present at 6 o'clock to the attendings. There's a ton of data now, on how disruptive it is for patients and their healing process to be woken up at all hours of the night by trainees or getting their labs drawn, which is phenomenal because we didn't realize what disservice we were doing to patients at the time. But so it's kind of that, things roll downhill mentality, and this is done to me, so I'm going to do it to you, even if it's subconscious. And that's really what led me to recognize the gap in leadership in the clinician space, because we need leaders. And I feel like every clinician is a leader. And I hear this, that clinicians don't always see themselves as leaders, but you're a leader of your microenvironment, whether that's your medical assistant, your nurse, whoever is in your microenvironment, you're the leader of that team, whether or not you have a formal title. And then you have formal roles where clinicians are, somebody taps you on the shoulder because you're good at being a clinician and says, hey, we want you to lead this committee or run this department, or we want you to precept a trainee or whatever that looks like. And they're asked to be in this role, or we want you to take over this clinic. And the skills that are required in that space are vastly different than the skills that clinicians take on to be good clinicians. There's conflict, actually. Some of the ones that I mentioned before that help us get through those first years of never asking for help and not taking care of ourselves and admitting that we need help. We see that as a sign of weakness. Those skills are going to directly conflict with the skills that we need to lead effectively. Mm-hmm. And yet we don't train clinician leaders appropriately. So now you have, because again, this happened to me, and I see this in so many of my clients, that you have clinician leaders that are put into these roles without the training they need, without the skill set, without the support. And then they flame out quickly. They burn out because they don't have the support. They think they're overwhelmed with the job responsibilities. A lot of times they're taking care of patients at the same time. And so they're doing essentially 2 full-time jobs at once with their patient load and their administrative load. So they're overwhelmed. They don't yet know enough in order to be successful in the role, but they feel like they need to know everything right away. So there's massive imposter syndrome. And then they're isolated because their peers, people that were their peers, now probably directly report to them. I was accused of selling out in my leadership. Like you're a suit now. You don't understand what it's like to practice, even though I was still practicing at the time and still practice to this day. So the overwhelm, the isolation, and the imposter syndrome, I see repetitively in clinicians who are in leadership positions. And so that's where I'm focused these days with my course and then with my consulting work is how do we create environments where clinicians have the skills and the resources they need to be successful, knowing that when they do, it has positive impacts on the organization as a whole. Clinicians are less likely to leave when their leader is effective. The patients are less likely to lead because they're in a supportive environment. And then the organization makes money because all those other impacts and outcomes improve. And so it's a critical problem that is fixable, which is what's exciting to me.
So I think as I'm listening to you walk through this, I think about that inability to ask for help. And I would tell you I was one of those. And interestingly enough for me, until I walked through my own health journey of Hodgkin's lymphoma, realizing that it was actually okay to ask for help because of that. And I don't want everybody to have that type of experience to get there. How do we as leaders, and I agree with you, I mean, one person, a million people, doesn't matter who's part of your team, there is still leadership that's essential. Short of just saying I need help, which a lot of us again won't do, how do you advise those of us that struggle to just get started in order to say enough, right? I need to do something different. I need assistance. This doesn't work for me anymore.
Yeah. And thank you for sharing. And again, knowing your story, because we talked on my podcast about a life-altering diagnosis. And that unfortunately is the wake-up call for a lot of people. For me, it was a divorce. For some people, it's health challenges, and others, it's, something happens in their, like something massive typically has to happen before they realize, yeah, I need help. And so it's a whisper before it's a shout, right? And so if we can listen to those whispers, and so the first step is really just being aware of what is it your body is trying to tell you? What is it that you're seeing around you? What are those gut feelings that you have about like, yeah, something's not right here? And how can you listen to those whispers and address those whispers before they start screaming at you?
So are there some common things that you see in your clients that are obvious to you that may not be obvious to others as those first signs?
Yeah. So again, any sort of health, and I don't necessarily mean health challenge in the capital H or capital T trauma, but maybe you can have trouble going to sleep. Your anxiety is keeping you up, even if it's not a clinical anxiety. If you're waking up I have a client who I was just working with who wakes up at 2:00 in the morning to work on charts. And she's like, I know that's not good for me, but this is the only time I have to do it. So, I hear this a lot of times where clinicians will say, well, I'm giving all this advice to my patients about what they should do, but I'm not doing any of it myself. That's a whisper. For some, it's when we have children and the children either outwardly or implicitly or explicitly signal to us that they need us more. Recognizing that we're not superhuman and that we are allowed to take time that we need to address our own emotions, and just recognizing that it's okay to have emotions. I think that's something that was also just suppressed in us when we were trainees, as we weren't allowed to bring emotions into the exam room with us. And we compartmentalize very well. We have to, it's a survival mechanism to some extent. But it doesn't work as well when we get out of the frenetic environment.
Do you think in your experience, the lack of emotion that we tend to see in clinicians actually hurts the patient-doctor relationship?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think all of us have situations in which we've interacted with clinical healthcare team and they're just, poker face. There's no empathy. And as a patient, and I've been a patient too, that comes off as, well, they don't care about me. And I can see it. I can see it now for what it is, again, because of the work I do. And I now have gotten to the point where I'm like, I start to empathize with them. Like, they must be really stressed out. This is a really tough environment. But that's not for a patient who is scared and just needs some reassurance and some empathy from their healthcare provider. It's really not acceptable for us to be treating patients in that way. And yet we don't have any other models of what to do and how to respond and how to act. And so we have to learn it ourselves, and we learn it a lot of times the hard way. So yeah, it does have an impact. And again, there's a ton of research that talks about the relationship between the physician and the patient, and the empathy skills that clinicians either have or don't have, and the impact that has on patient outcomes.
Yeah, it's really very fascinating. And especially with the shortage now of clinicians, sometimes we're stuck with the ones that don't resonate well with us on the empathetic side, because we need the skill set.
Yeah.
Let's talk a little bit about your compass framework and how you work with clients to reset what probably most of us need resetting.
Yeah. Yeah. So my compass framework, I've always been really drawn to the compass as a metaphor, as a tool, and a lot of this came from, again, my own experience and my own journey, and realizing when I was feeling off track with my true purpose. And so, if we think about a compass as a tool, if we're going on a hike or a journey where we're not quite sure where we're going, we don't go without either a map or some tool to guide us, right? And so a compass is a tool that helps to guide us, making sure we're not veering off course. And so my framework is based on the 4 cardinal directions. So purpose is being the north, and purpose being our true north, what is going to continue to guide us. We start out, I was just talking about this with somebody earlier today about, like, that feeling. I still remember that feeling of putting on my white coat for the first time in med school. And this is before I'd ever touched a patient. Just the excitement and the anticipation and how cool it was.
Uh-huh.
And then fast forward 20 plus years later, when you put your white coat on for the 100,000th time, and you're like, oh, like that excitement and anticipation that we all have, it is drained out of us. And so, because we're overwhelmed with competing demands. And so if we can get back to our purpose, and that's going to be different for everybody, and it's going to be different from day to day. But really aligning with our purpose is using that as the true north, can help protect us against burnout. So that's the north. East is connection, which is, looking towards the sunset, looking towards the east. How do we connect with other people? How do we bring in the interactions with both other people and with ourselves? And so how do we find that community and that connection for ourselves as our east, the rising sun, and what brings us light to our days? So the South is empowerment, and this is grounding and advocacy. And a lot of physicians I talk to today feel very helpless, and it's easy to feel helpless because there's so much going on, and we might feel like, I can't take on the whole system. I can't affect change. There's nothing I can do. But empowerment is it's the opposite of helplessness. It's realizing that even though we can't, or we may not be able to take on the whole system today, there are some very specific things that we can do. We've talked about a little bit of them, to stand up for ourselves and for our patients and for what's right. And then the West is joy. And this is kind of the reflective, how do I, when my day is done, what do I look back on and find the moments of joy and glimmers that are going to sustain me throughout the next day. So that's the compass framework in a nutshell.
I love that. And I'm thinking of about 2,000 practitioners that I'm connected with socially that have probably lost 1, 2, or 3 different of those directions over the course of the work that they do. And it's interesting. So share, just because I know there's a lot of practitioners that actually listen as well. talk a little bit, if you will, just about the course and why you feel so empowered to do this work, to help us, right? Because we spend all day helping others.
Mm-hmm.
And even if we're willing to raise our hand and say we need help, I know that your resources are tremendous for those of us out there. And I would love for people to learn how they can get the help from you that
Yeah, thank you.
we all really need.
Yeah, the genesis of the course came from looking back at the mistakes that I made when I was a new leader. And some of them are very cringy, and yet I still talk about them. I talk about them on, on my podcast and my newsletters and social media. So cringy, but necessary for other people to hear, like, yeah, I did this, don't do this. And I think like a lot of us, we had to learn the hard way. I made mistakes. I hurt people. I did things that weren't effective, and I want people to avoid that same pain and suffering. And I see that suffering in so many of the leaders that I work with, that again, those three patterns: the overwhelm, imposter syndrome, isolation. And so that was the impetus for this course, was to help leaders that are struggling with any of those three things. Part of it too was I work a lot with clinician leaders in one-on-one coaching or consulting, and for lots of different reasons, it's not always accessible to everybody. And so I wanted to create something that was more accessible. It's a CME accredited, so you get 10 hours of CME for it, which I'm super excited about. The other thing that is really unique about this course is I've taken video clips from real coaching sessions that I've had with clinician leaders who are struggling with each of these things that we've talked about. And there's a lot more in there around delegating and managing emotions, and how to ask for clarity when you're given a role that's very unclear, how to have a conversation with your boss about it. So real coaching sessions with real clinician leaders who are struggling with these very things. You watch them in real time, have insights that are going to help them move forward, so that you can also learn from those insights. And then you can also see, like, oh yeah, there are other people that are dealing with these same things. And so I'm super excited about it, and I've already gotten some really good feedback. So
This is so great. And Laura, I'm going to tell you, we're going to help you promote this, because again, I know the need is there. I see it every day with my colleagues, and we're in such an amazing field, this field to help people get well, that when we can exude the confidence and the strength and the passion in the way that you describe through your compass, I know we can make an even bigger impact. So we're going to help you spread the word. I absolutely love this. Dr. Laura Suttin, I hope you'll hang out. We're going to take a quick break to listen to our sponsors, and then let's just have some fun. I'm going to throw some questions at you. We'll see where they land. You up for that?
I'm up for it.
All right, everybody, take a quick break. We are going to be right back with the Positively Altered Podcast. This is your weekly dose of Dr. Cindy, the Positively Altered Podcast. Stop. Hit that follow button now and spread the love with Positively Altered. And we're back with the Positively Altered Podcast and my guest, Dr. Laura Suttin. We're going to have some fun now. You ready, Laura?
I'm ready.
Okay, I'm going to throw some questions. And if you don't like them, you're allowed to pass, just so you know. But first thing you think of when I ask the question.
Okay.
All right. What is one place on earth you've never visited you'd love to go?
Oh, the South Pacific.
Okay. That was easy, right?
Like Bali, all of that. Yeah.
Okay. I was just reading a book, it's fiction, of course, about a honeymooning couple that was in that area, and they did a snorkeling dive and they found a plane with dead people in it and lots of money and diamonds.
Oh, that sounds awesome. I'm
So
up for it.
maybe there's something cool like that in your future too, where, hopefully it's not bad people looking for you after you discover the diamonds, but, maybe something fun. What is your biggest guilty pleasure?
Oh, I have recently, so I'm recovering from a foot surgery that's kept me off my feet for a couple months. So I got into this show called The Traitors, the reality show.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of TV, but this one is it's quite scrumptious.
So you've given up quite a few hours of productive time for a little bit of trash. Is that fair?
A little bit, but I mean, at the same time, I was kind of bedridden for several weeks, and I'm like, well, I might as well.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I'm not familiar, but I'll Google it and see if it
Yeah.
piques my interest at all, in the free time. What is the weirdest food combo you eat?
Okay. Well, I don't eat this anymore. But peanut butter and bacon together.
You are not the only person to say that.
Yeah. I ate that a lot when I was young. I've given up pork products. But yeah. Oh, so good.
Oh my God. All right. Like I'm so hesitant to try that because it sounds disgusting, but the more people that like it say that, I might get tempted. So are you
It's really
slapping
good.
peanut butter on anything else these days?
Oh, I'll put peanut butter on anything. I love
Really?
peanut butter. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. All right. I'm going to have to work at that one a little bit. You can only have 3 apps on your phone for the rest of your life. What 3 apps do you keep?
Solitaire, Instagram, and maps. Some form of map.
Okay. The solitaire is interesting. So do you play the
Yeah.
game while you're watching the reality TV show?
No, I don't. Because I want to immerse myself in something. I sometimes watch TV with certain people in the family that like to, be on their computer or phone or whatever. And if I'm going to watch something, I'm going to watch something. That's just me.
Okay. No, that's fair. What is one thing you'd like to be good at that you're not good at?
I wish I could whistle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I can't whistle.
We're going to have to find you a course on how to whistle.
I know how to whistle. Somebody email me and let me know how to whistle course.
All right. If anybody has a magic trick, shoot us an email so that we can teach Dr. Sutton how to whistle. That would be fun. All right. If you could create a new holiday, what would it be and what would we celebrate?
I wish Mother's Day was actually for mothers. So maybe it's a little bit of a different answer to your question, but Mother's Day seems to be for everybody else but the mothers.
Okay, so let's do this. Pick a day anywhere in the calendar. We'll leave the regular Mother's Day that Hallmark,
Okay.
is celebrating, but what day can we pick for actual Mother's Day?
It would be any day mothers want. They get to choose and they have no responsibilities for that day.
I love that. So every single day on the 365-day calendar, you choose.
Yeah, you get to pick
Fair
your
enough.
day.
Fair enough. You might appreciate this then, Laura. I've always said when it's my children's birthday and they get showered with presents and cards that we're doing that wrong. That day should be about me. They had no choice. They just showed up. Like I gave birth. I went through all the pain, right? I'm still going through all the pain. Why are their birthdays not about me?
Oh, yeah, that's true.
Maybe same concept as Mother's Day. Every day this year, I want presents for
Yes.
giving birth. Absolutely. All right. And lastly, what was your favorite thing about doing the podcast today?
Oh, so it's just good to talk to you and to share the message. I could shout it from the rooftops and I could go on for hours. So I appreciate you giving me the space and just great to talk to you.
Oh, it's been my pleasure. Okay. So speaking of that, how do we find you, follow you, sign up for the course? Give us all the good info.
Yeah. So my website is drlaurasuttin.com and that's Suttin with an I. So Suttin, drlaurasuttin.com. The course is at drlaurasuttin.com/courses. I'm on Instagram as Dr. Laura Suttin, Facebook at Dr. Laura Suttin, and LinkedIn as Laura Suttin. So yeah, find me there.
Okay, easy. And we will make sure that your name is spelled correctly in the show notes and that there's a link to the course too, because I think it's really, really important that we flood you with practitioners that really need your assistance. So we're going to do our best to put that out for you.
Awesome.
Yeah, you got it. If anybody is interested in what we are doing, please check us out at the website, drsindyspeaks.com, or shoot us an email at hello@drsindyspeaks.com. Make sure you like and follow this podcast. Please feel free to share it. And don't forget on the website to sign up for our not so daily dose newsletter. We don't bombard you every day, but we love to get you some great information and you can always opt out if you need to, but you're not going to want to. You're going to get some good stuff there. I will tell you, Dr. Laura Suttin, my favorite thing about this podcast was not only reconnecting with you, but the fact that I think offline there's going to be some really good things that we can do together to get the work that you are so passionate about into the space to run around the compass in order to bring joy to more practitioners and ultimately more patients. So thank you so much for your time today. I truly hope that this podcast has left everybody positively altered.